I said earlier that my training is one, save lives, the Hippocratic Oath, save lives, and two, maintain and improve the quality of life. Most countries around the world were laying off individuals, were furloughing them, so unemployment would have been going up. We felt that that was not the proper thing to do here in the Bahamas, because we felt that if I want to maintain with my Hippocratic Oath, and I lay off those individuals, public servants, I laid off, those from Bahamas Air, National Flight Service, I laid those individuals off. It meant that how were those individuals going to feed their families? How were they going to pay their bills? I would have been going totally against my training in terms of maintaining the quality of life. Their quality of life would have decreased. And therefore, that was one example we could not follow the world with. Now you would note that countries like the US, they subsequently came out and gave bailouts to certain segments.
Yeah.
We felt that we had to maintain the quality of life within the bound. We could not introduce this additional stress and decrease in quality. So we had to do a similar thing. We had to do a bailout for the Bahamas. We never spoke about it in that term, but we did a bailout for the Bahamas well in excess of $1.3 billion.
Explain to us how you did that.
I will explain that. $1.3 billion bailout to the Bahamian people to ensure that nobody's quality of life would have decreased and to ensure that they would have been safe and saved lives. Now, how did we do that? We maintained all those individuals at Bahamas Air and public servants. That in itself, in terms of employment, in 2019, 2020, that in itself would have been over $650 million that the government would have been paying out to individuals in spite of them not working. At the same time, you did that the following year. Then we introduced, we made sure that individuals got unemployment benefits. That was an additional $115 million. Then we paid an additional $53 million to businesses to ensure that they maintain the employment of those individuals, kept their people employed. And we also gave businesses tax credit. So they got money to keep their businesses open. That was a part of our bailout. Over $1.3 billion bailout to save this Bahamian economy. Now, had we not done that, the Bahamian economy would have crashed. Now, how? Let me explain that. And I want the Bahamian people to listen to me very carefully.
Talk to them right here.
Listen to me very carefully. Imagine the public servants, Bahamas Air, NASA Flight Service, the taxi drivers, the unemployed, the self-employed, all receiving money from government, They had bills. Foreclosures would have increased in this country. Foreclosures would have increased. That was avoided. They were able to purchase food for their families. They were able to pay their light bill. In addition to that, we had decreased the light bills for many individuals, allowed them incentives to ensure that their lights remained on, right? So the banks, because monies were going to the banks, that is, mortgages were paid, other bills were being met, what it meant is that the banks were able to maintain their staffing. And therefore, the banks in the financial sector was able to maintain still a small degree of profitability. So the US and them, yes, they would have done the bailouts for the airline industry, but we did a bailout for the entire Bahamas. So we maintained, and because those individuals had money to spend, the domestic economy continued. There were money flowing through the domestic economy so that the individuals on the side of the street or who were doing little odds and ends, they too were making money because you were still spending money. So over $1.3 billion bailout to save this economy. And therefore, the banks did not crash. The financial sectors did not crash. Many homes were not furloughed, all right? Monies were flowing through the economy. The mom and pop stores in the inner cities, they were getting money because individuals were being paid and therefore they could purchase and spend there. So now, when you open up, your economy was already in some degree of profitability and can move quite rapidly. If we had not done that, the Bahamas would have seen the degree of financial disaster that they could not have imagined. Over 1.3, and I'm being conservative, over $1.3 billion in bailout to ensure that money was flowing through our economy, business was maintained, jobs were maintained, though not working, paid, banks were maintained,